Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Napoleon Total, and today we're back with another Enlisted episode. And today we're going to be doing the gold weapon order suggestions that we pretty much do every week since now. So last time we did the German assaulter weapons, and now we're going to be doing the French assaulter weapons. These are going to be spaced between the early war and the late war, so that's going to be interesting. Since this came in second place from the Germans, we're going to be doing the French weapons now. With that said, I usually have weekly posts on which weapons that you guys most like to see. With that said, let's get started with the French assaulter weapons. The first one that we have is the STA Model 1924. The STA Model 1924 was developed in the early 1920s by the Army Technical Commission to satisfy an interest in adopting a weapon similar to the Brigham MP-13 submachine gun and has been deployed by the German armies during the First World War. The STA was tested at Versailles in comparison to other prototypes of the submachine gun, the MAS-26. The design underwent modifications over a period of years until it was considered satisfactory, and it was officially adopted in 1924. The French army then ordered 8,250 units, with the production being allocated to the Arsenal S. Saint-Irene. About 1,000 STA submachine guns were completed and delivered to the army by the mid-1920s. The gun saw limited use by the French troops in Morocco. By the latter part of the decade, however, attitudes within the French officer corps has changed, and it was decided that submachine guns had no compatible place within modern infantry tactics. The adoption of the STA 1924 was then never highly prioritized, and then it was shortly thereafter cancelled, and placed 8,000 guns were never ever made, which is really sad considering that World War II just proven that the submachine guns are very important. The STA 1924 was on the basics of straightforward blowback sense principle. The bolt was modeled on the fact of the MP-18, and the general layout of the gun seems to be replicated from the Reberoy's 1918 carbine. The clocking feature of a rear bolt caught then safety as a safety provision, another feature taken from the MP-18, and the weapon's rifling consists of 6 left-hand grooves of 200mm pitch. A bipod was technically fitted in the end of the barrel, so this could actually use somewhat like a light machine gun. So the STA 1924, although not mass-produced, was a pretty good French submachine gun. With that said, let's move on to the Pitter Millet 1939. Originally designed by Charles G. Pitter, the Pitter submachine gun was developed by SACM and submitted for French Army trials in 1937. The Pitter was tested separately from the previous submachine gun investigated by the French Army and was submitted too late to factor into comparable trials. Nevertheless, the French Army expressed interest in its design and ordered 3,000 units for a limited adoption of the Millet 1939. Alongside the MAS-38, the SACM, however, declined the order, and they were already being hard-pressed to complete the arsenal of the Millet 1935A pistols and the Millet and the MAS-36 rifles. There was no attempt to put the Pitter submachine gun into full production, and only 50 pre-production samples were ever made. These existing guns were then pressed into service during the German invasion of France in 1940. The design basically revised post-war in the form of the MAS-48 submachine gun, which is not in-game, for God's sake, because it is a post-war weapon. However, the design of the submachine was a blowback operational using the L-straight bolt, which used most of the bolt's mass laying in the long tubular section of the barrel. The bolt rode over a guided rod and a loose spring-loaded firing pin, and was housed inside the bolt face at a tilted angle. The magazine housing was then hinged, and then the magazine could lay horizontally beneath the barrel, and when it was not in use, of course. The gun used a fixed wooden stock that can be removed with a single unit. Well, that says that is the Pitter Millet 1939. Let's move on to the ETVS. The ETVS was developed in the 1930s in response of a commission for the French Army, who at the time was looking for a serviceable submachine gun, of which once again we know the story of which it was then scrapped since submachine guns were deemed unnecessary by the French Army, which is a really big question why. It was then trialed against rival designs including the Pitter Model 1939, which was just mentioned above, and the MAS-38. The ETVS was considered inferior to those weapons and then was rejected. Development of the ETVS ceased after its rejection from the military, but when World War II broke out, neither the MAS-38 or the Millet 39 have been produced in significant quantities, and thus the French were very short on submachine guns. The Army then hurried to produce 50 trial ETVS submachine guns into military service in an attempt to alternate these shortages. These guns were then reported captured by the Wehrmacht after the invasion of France and pressed into German service as the Maschinenpistole 721F. Although the ETVS submachine gun was never adopted, it was then the concept basis for the post-war Mach 47 submachine gun. So this weapon can actually be given to the French or the German army, depending on if it's the Wehrmacht Maschinenpistole 721F or it's the ETVS for the French. But that said, in terms of design, the ETVS was a simple blowback submachine gun chamber for the French 7.65 by 20mm Longun carbine. It was designed to be compact for ease of carrying and holding a folded stock and a folded magazine, which is actually quite interesting. After that, we have something very different, and this is actually, we don't have a lot of knowledge about this, and that is the Declar Model 1936. The Declar was patient in December of 1936, and it was known as a prototype that don't know it was even actually constructed. The Declar was an early bullpup pattern submachine gun designed to be fired from the user's forearm, meaning this guy can actually hold it with one hand. The magazine featured a curl latch that fitted in the user's wrist, and so had to be steadily aimed and then reduce the recoil. The trigger group was similar to that of the FM2429, so that's going to be an interesting thing, which is FM2429 is like a light machine gun. So that's going to be interesting, but this is basically a machine pistol to a certain degree. That said, let's move on to the last one that we have, and that is the MGD PM9. The MGD PM9 was a French bolt-action submachine gun, designed in the late 1940s or in the 1950s, of which we don't know, so my guess is that it was designed in the 1940s, and that is why it's on this list, because Cold War equipment is currently not enlisted. The designer was Louis DeVolt, and built in small numbers by a French firm of Merlin and Grimm in the 1950s. Of which, once again, there were prototypes in the 1940s. The PM9 has an unusual design in 3 different ways. It employed an off-axis delay blowback at a clock spiral man similar to the Lewis gun, rather than the centrally coiled spring used in the vast majority of the self-loading firearms, and most unconventional of all, used a rotating flywheel as a delay mass in conjunction with the bolt. It was furnished for a folding magazine and also became folding buttstock. This together was the original operating mechanism, results in a highly compact weapon, but there is no record of being purchased or deployed by any military or special police force. But that said, that is the MGD PM9, and this is also the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord. We're almost at 1K. But that said, if you're interested in more weapons, I basically upload videos of weapons pretty much every week, and I've done a lot of weeks, and thankfully Enlisted does listen to some of these suggestions, so that's a good thing. But that's it, have a great day guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Now before you leave, I would like to thank you very much for watching this video. I will be honored if you could like and subscribe to the channel. Remember, more videos are coming out, so it is a good idea to click on that notification button. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.